Let's talk about bullying. This topic has been really up in my world. I would say probably most of my life, as I know a lot of you all who have either been the victim of bullying or the perpetrator of bullying may have been aware. It's also interesting looking at the way our world is right now, how there is this kind of macrocosm of bully energy, where there's a lot of control, there's a lot of power over, there's a lot of angst and need to fight against that. There's also this kind of underlying message of lay down and submit as well. I look at all of these energies that are really happening on a political level, on a global level, and looking to see how those kind of patterns or dynamics are really created in childhood, in interactions that we've had in the past, and also past lives that we've actually brought the blueprint of battle, of fight, and the need to really be in this polarized bully energy. The conversation currently about bullies and how to deal with the bully is really about victims and letting the victims be victims, not really allowing the victims to be empowered into a different choice, and also exposing the actual dynamic at hand. When you look at the bully energy, whether that's happening on a global scale, the energies of bigger energy, bigger things, or happening in your dynamics, your childhood dynamics, your relationship dynamics, the dynamic that you have with yourself, actually looking at where it's been valuable to be the one who's done control over, the one who's given a slippery remark, the one who's bit out at someone or confronted them in a very mean and kind of powerful back down energy kind of way. And also where there's been the opposite, the value of actually laying down and playing the victim, being very dramatic, and whatever that was or whatever that gave you. What I find so often is this current conversation is all about the victims always being victims. What I look at is more at this energetic nuance where in all of our interactions and a lot of our relationships, there's this constant back and forth. How often do you actually play the victim all the time or the victimizer all the time? And how often do you actually volley back and forth between those two extremes? Now, bullying is really thought of, I think, in the most dramatic sense and more of a physical violence kind of way. What I like to look at is more the energetics, where it's not just physical violence, it's actually the mean girls behavior. It's the cool kids club. It's being able to exclude people. It's the slippery remarks that you give people that have them shut up, back down, go away, or just let them know that what they're being right there isn't okay or doesn't fit into your world. There is this energy of unacknowledgement or making someone wrong or judging them. All of those are actually bully energies. So I'd like you to look at that. How often do you choose to be that, choose to gift that to someone, and choose to gift that to yourself as well? So this bully thing isn't just about actually punching someone or coming after them in a physical form, but actually being in judgment of them, of making them wrong and leaving them out and excluding them really from your life, your living, or the entire environment that you're in general. Those interactions also start to go deeper into our own inner world where we start excluding ourselves or having this mean internal dialogue that is really about judgment, about control, about don't do that, you're not good enough. That's more of actually being the bully. And then there's this opposite end of the spectrum where you're actually being the victim with it. There is this kind of, oh, I told you I'm not worth it. There's a justification for not going after the life that you live. There's this instigation that occurs too, where you poke, 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 poke at somebody, just hoping they're going to react and then prove, oh, they are mean. They did come after me. Now I can play the victim and get very dramatic about it. To me, there's these big opposite ends of polarity, and the polarity is fascinating because it really locks you up and locks you out of choice. The polarity is everywhere that you've actually really, really agreed with something or really, really resisted to it. Those two viewpoints have you locked in that viewpoint and unable to shift and change. What I'd like you to do is expand your perspective now and actually look at where you've taken those two very charged and extreme opposites in this dynamic of the bully. Where have you been the one who gives the bully, gives the judgment, does exclusion, does meanness, and maybe violence? And where have you been the other one who actually looks at, I'm never going to be enough? I'm always going to be the victim. It's never going to change. There's a total disempowerment energy. Where have you been both? Where have you been one more than the other? And where do you kind of volley nuanced back and forth in your relationships? It's really fascinating to look at actually having a sense of peace and possibility in your life, actually having a sense of presence in your interactions, and being able to actually create relationships with people where you actually get to show up, you're with them in a creative way. That can't occur if you're locked into this dynamic. If there's these nuances of judgment, of excluding, including here, volleying back and forth, there's always going to be strife. There's always going to be a battle, and there's always going to be a power struggle, one over the other. Instead of actually coming at it 50-50, where you're both here and willing to create. Where has this bully dynamic been playing out for you very dramatically? What did you learn from childhood where you were the bully or where you received bullying? And where has that been coloring all of your interactions since then? Where do you have a guard up because you're waiting for someone to stab you in the back? Where do you exclude someone from your group because you don't think it's going to make you as close to the people that you're with over here? Where are those slippery anti-conscious statements that pop out of your mouth that are really utilized to build you up by putting other people down? These are all variations on bullying. I have a telecall coming up calling How to Deal with a Bully. And for me, how you deal with a bully is actually about how you deal with yourself and your awareness. Being able to come out of those victim behaviors where you may be instigating it and inviting it and creating it for yourself, and also exposing where you are choosing the opposite end of the energy, where you are choosing a bully energy to other people or to yourself in your own internal dialogue that actually creates other people seeing that and treating you that way. So it's a discovery and exposing these energies, exposing this dynamic, and really getting into the deep nuanced layers. Everywhere that the bullying energy and the fight energy on a global scale is now impacting your microcosm of a life, and how to go about changing it for you, and what change that can have: peace, possibility, kindness, creative, intimate interactions, and relationship dynamics that could actually ripple out and change the course of the world and the planet. So often we desire kindness. We want a kinder world. We want more of a sense of peace and possibilities in the world. And the only way we know to make that change is to fight against the way things are. That's actually part of the bully dynamic. It's fighting something that you've given more control and more power to than to yourself. What if it wasn't about the fight? What if you could lay down your sword, step off the battlefield, and actually look at creating a world that was more dominant in kindness, in peace, and in possibilities? It takes getting present with yourself. It takes exposing all of these energies, all of these dynamics, all the past stuff that you're carrying forward. And everywhere you continually choose, even in the tiniest degree, to be a bully or to invite bullying into your world. That in of itself will open up the space to take you out of those polar opposite energies that have you locked up, bring you into the moment, bring you into the present, so you actually start to look at what will work for you and what you can create. It's very fascinating to me looking at how do you create a kind world when, in my viewpoint, you can only create the kindness you know is possible when you stop reacting to the meanness that other people choose. If you're reacting constantly to what other people are choosing around you, you're never present in your life and you're never on the creative edge. It's about taking back the power with presence, being here, and actually getting smarter than the people who are looking to control you. People who are looking to do bully, people who are looking to do victim and putting you in the bully role in whatever dynamic they're choosing. Getting present, getting aware, and actually looking at all angles of this. The more information you have, the more choice you have. the more possibilities that start to come up, and the more freedom you have to choose to create kindness in your world. I'm so excited for this telecall. There's so many different layers to this, so many different awarenesses that are bubbling. I invite you to come and play if it's light for you. It's called How to Deal with a Bully. We're going to be looking at all of these different dynamics and really changing the conversation on this to one of choice, of empowerment, and of allowance for what other people are choosing without needing to fight it to create change. You creating change in your own world and what actually works for you and living and embodying and being that will create the ripple effect. It just may look different than you think it has. But imagine being able to give up the battle, give up the strife, give up the angst of it, and actually start choosing the kindness that you know is possible. That more than anything is the offering of this call, and one that I'm so excited to dive into. I hope to see you then.